Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, Opie shares his frustrations about his wife's late nights out, culminating in a night where she stayed at another man's house without informing him. He discovered this through her messages, leading to arguments and distrust. Despite her claims of innocence, he struggles to trust her, especially with their twins in mind. Now let's get into the story. So my 27 male wife, 24 female, often goes out on a Friday night with her best friend and usually doesn't get back until 4 a.m. The place she goes to closes then, so no big deal every time she's been out. She's always come back. It does slightly bother me that she's out every Friday and never gets back until so late as we do, have 3-year-old twins, and it seems irresponsible, but that's for another discussion. Anyway, this Friday she went out as usual, and I woke up and she wasn't there. Even though it was 6:30 a.m. so, I texted her and called her to see where she was. She had not sent a single message to me all night and had not indicated in any way that she would be staying out. So naturally, I was worried sick. Roll forward to 8 a.m. and I got a text saying, "Sorry, babe. I stayed at a friend's house last night." Now I know this person and I wasn't too bothered, just slightly pissed off that she never thought to say anything before. Roll forward to Saturday night. I was on her iPad as we shared it, and suddenly these strange messages came through for her best friend saying, "Where did you go last night? I'm so upset that you just left me." Now I was confused as to why she would have said this, as I assumed she had gone to her other friends with her. So yes, I know this was wrong. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened up a messenger to see what was going on, to which she said to her friend that she stayed over at some lad's house. Now obviously, I was super pissed reading this, and all sorts of thoughts were going through my head, and I confronted my wife about it. We argued, and it was mostly her saying how she regretted doing it, and how she was so drunk she didn't know what she was doing, and that nothing happened. I slept on the sofa that night, as I was so angry and upset, I didn't even want to see her. Yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I confronted her again, and basically said, "I need the truth." She came back saying that she swore on our kids' lives that nothing happened. But still, I can't stop thinking about it. What are the chances of someone going back to someone else's house after going out drunk and just falling asleep? It just doesn't seem to add up, and they don't know what to do. I understand the general consensus is divorce. I understand why, but divorce is a massive thing. Not just for the effect on me, but on the kids too. If I didn't have kids, I admit this would have been done a long time ago. A lot of people have been asking if she's always been like this. In short, no. It started 3 or 4 months ago when she got a new job and met her new best friend. Her job is stressful, and she was diagnosed with depression, which is half the reason I allowed it. I don't own her, so I don't see why I get to allow her to do anything. Looking at it now, I've been a pushover, and that ends now. Today's second story. In this story, Opie reflects on his 15-year marriage to his first wife, marked by love but ultimately cheated. After discovering her affair with a barista, he ends the relationship, feeling devastated yet relieved. As he moves on and remarries, he learns that his ex is struggling financially and emotionally, while he finds happiness with his second wife, grateful for the turn of events. Now let's get into the story. When you marry your spouse, you have to recite vows such as in sickness and health, for better or worse, and most importantly, till death do you part. I, male 45, took those vows seriously when I married my first wife 15 years ago. The two of us married after dating for about 4 years and living together for 2. It seemed like we were a great fit for one another. Similar goals, interests, values, and everything like that. It was around 3 years, and when I started noticing little things. She wasn't distant or anything and still accepted my touch, but she was sneaky. My ex never wanted me to see her phone, Not that I had a reason to at the time, but making it so obvious drew attention to it. This probably ended up being her downfall. The thing that made me realize something was going on was when her phone rang while we were watching a movie one night. She bolted to the bathroom and started talking in hushed voices. I confronted her when she came back, because that was just too strange for me not to bring up. Again, more denial that nothing was going on. It was her friend who really needed to talk to her. I remember hearing a male voice before she rushed off to the bathroom, so I confronted her about that fact. It's a guy friend who was her excuse. As far as I knew, my wife didn't have any male friends. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but the fact that she didn't say anything was concerning. So I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed her phone from her when she was texting on it constantly one day. She shouted at me, but I got the evidence I needed. I saw text back and forth with this guy named John. They were of a romantic and sexual nature, which just confirmed for me that my wife had been cheating on me. I asked how long this had been going on. She said a few months. It wasn't something she was looking for, but it just happened. The thought never crossed my mind that she would ever step outside our marriage. It sounded silly, but I never saw it coming. We seemed happy, and she seemed genuinely happy to me. Yet here she was telling me she had cheated on me with some guy she met at a coffee shop of all places. He was the barista and started flirting with her. One thing led to another, and a month later they started an affair. Cheating was a deal breaker for me, so I told my wife our marriage was over. She cried and seemed genuinely distraught by the thought that our marriage was going to be over. This lasted for a few days until I told her I had finally gone to the lawyer to start the divorce process. After I told my wife, she told me that she never loved me anyway, and her new boyfriend would make her happier than I ever would. The sudden change in her attitude was shocking. I knew she was just doing this to hurt me, so I tried to brush it off. In a little under a week, my wife moved out and stayed with her family. I almost wanted to ask why she had moved in with her new boyfriend, but I wanted to make a clean break from her. After the papers were signed, I felt relieved. However, there was also devastation. I hated the fact that my first marriage had ended the way it did. We were supposed to spend the rest of our lives together. At the time, I was close to turning 35 and facing the end of my marriage. My ex seemed so happy once the divorce was final. She'd be posting these pictures on Facebook of her new boyfriend. I had to eventually delete my Facebook because it wasn't a good idea for me to constantly be obsessing over what she was doing. I then started working on myself, working out, hobbies, friends, and everything I could do to keep my mind off my ex. The divorce was a necessity, but it didn't mean that I wasn't hurt that this ended up being the outcome. It was entirely my ex-wife's fault. All she had to do was stick to her vows. How hard was that? After about a year, I was starting to reach a new level of happiness. I wasn't sure what my ex-wife was up to and didn't care. My sister cared because she took it upon herself to tell me what happened to my wife. They had mutual friends, so it was easy to find out what was going on with my ex. The AP ended up taking her for all she was worth. She paid his bills, gave him money for a business, and the kicker was he had been cheating on her the entire time. I didn't feel any pity for my ex because now she knew how it felt. How she thought a cheater was going to be faithful to her was beyond me. She was in a lot of debt now thanks to giving the AP so much money. During our marriage, we both had good jobs and made decent money. We had long since paid off any debt we had, so it was a shock to learn that she had ended up in such a bad financial spot. This woman my sister was describing to me didn't sound like my ex at all. It sounded like an entirely different woman. She was so desperate that she had even gone around asking others for money, including my sister. I was surprised she didn't reach out to me, but I had her blocked off on all my devices. We didn't share any children, so there was no reason for us to remain in contact with one another. Once I met my second wife, all thoughts of my ex flew out of my mind. We met at work actually, and while it's never a good idea to get involved with a coworker, I couldn't help myself. The same applied to her. It was about a year and a half after we met and started dating that I proposed. It was quite fast, but I felt like it was right. When my wedding was announced, my ex did reach out to me to tell me congratulations. I just responded with a smiley emoji, because how else can you respond to that? I didn't have any obligation to speak with her, but I still wanted to say something to her, just to get it off my mind and never have to think about it again for as long as I lived. Now I'm 45, and I've been married to my second wife for years. Things couldn't be better between the both of us. The last I heard, my first wife was still alone and hopping from relationship to relationship. The way things are looking for my ex is not good. She is going to end up being alone when she could have had a long-lasting relationship. I guess I should thank her, because if she hadn't cheated on me, I never would have met my second wife, who was amazing. Today's third story. In this story, Opie dated his girlfriend for over 2 years, feeling a deep connection and planning for the future. However, he grew concerned about her interactions with other men and discovered she had been deceitful about her past relationships. After finding evidence of her infidelity and a list of sexual encounters with multiple men, he broke up with her dramatically during an expensive dinner. Now let's get into the story. My girlfriend and I had been together for a little over 2 years. I met her on a dating app, and we went out for coffee one day. We instantly had a good connection, and our coffee date turned into a late movie screening. We didn't really want to leave each other. We had only been dating for a few weeks when I asked her to be my girlfriend, and we both deleted our profiles on the app we met on. I was really excited to be with her. Historically, I've had some trouble maintaining healthy relationships, and I felt like something was different with her. I let my guard down and I was vulnerable with her. When we initially started dating, we never had a discussion about our previous sexual history. We discussed testing and things like that, but I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to ask her for her body count. She eventually told me on her own without me even asking. She told me that it was only 4. It sounds misogynistic, but I was happy it was so low. She had 2 long-term boyfriends and a couple of short flings, but other than that, she didn't seem to be the type of person who would hook up with people randomly. My body count was only a little bit higher than hers, so I thought we were a good match experience-wise. Everything was normal with us for the first part of our relationship. We weren't living together just yet, but I was considering asking her if she wanted to take that next step. I thought I saw a future with her. She was different from all of the other girls I dated, and I wanted to spend my life with her. The issue first arose when I noticed she was getting calls and text messages from a couple of different men. Given my past relationship history, I was a little wary about that at first. I never wanted to be seen as the kind of guy who was controlling or possessive, so I bit my tongue about it for a while. One day I saw a FaceTime video come through while I was with her from one of those guys. We'll call him Fred. She rejected the call, but I decided that I wanted to ask her more about it. She told me that it was just a friend from college, and he had been wanting to reconnect and go out now that he was back in the city. She made it seem like it was platonic. I didn't have an issue with her being friends with men. I was friends with women, so I knew it wasn't inherently bad. She didn't tell me why she was rejecting Fred's calls and putting him off, though. It made me think that something might have happened with them, or she might have been trying to avoid hurting his feelings. It was possible that he had some kind of crush on her, and she didn't want to get involved with that. A few weeks went by, and I was supposed to go out to dinner with her. It had been a busy week, and I was really looking forward to getting away and spending time with my girlfriend. Unfortunately, she canceled at the last minute. She told me that she wasn't feeling well and had a migraine. I offered to bring her some comfort food, relax with her at her apartment, and watch some movies. She told me she just wanted to go to sleep. Later that night, I pulled up my phone and scrolled through social media, as I always did before bed. I clicked on one of her friends' Instagram stories and saw that they went out to a club. I didn't see my girlfriend in the first few images, but I noticed her sitting in the background in one of them. She was sitting at a table next to a couple of guys in a very revealing outfit. One of the guys next to her was obviously into her. Just from the way she was looking at him in the image, I could tell she was into him too. It wasn't enough for me to think that she had cheated on me right away. At the very least, I knew that she had lied to me. I didn't understand why she would lie if she had been invited to go out with her friends and wanted to do that. I would have understood. I couldn't help but think that there was something else going on, that she felt the need to lie. I did some digging through her other friends' Instagram and Snapchat stories to put together who was in attendance that night. I could see that Fred was at the club with her. I had already been kind of concerned about what was going on with them. She already told me that he wanted to hang out platonically with her, so why was she lying about it? From his social media, I learned that he had just moved into the city with his long-term girlfriend. I didn't know the full story, but it looked like they were together when they were in college and they either had a long-distance relationship or rekindled something after some time. It made me feel good knowing that he was in a relationship because I thought it would lessen the chance that he was trying to sleep with my girlfriend. I didn't say anything to my girlfriend about it when I saw her the following day. She seemed really out of it. I figured she was either faking the illness or she was hungover. We watched a movie together and she fell asleep about halfway through. I was curious about what happened, so I looked through her phone. I started with her text messages. There was a long exchange between her and Fred about getting together now that he was back in the city. I already knew that he wanted to do that, so it wasn't surprising. What surprised me was how much he was begging her to give him another chance. From the context, I could tell that they had dated or slept together before in the past. I knew that he wasn't one of the people that she told me about when she went over her sexual history with me, so that was another thing she lied about. At the end of their message exchanges, she told him that they would see each other at the club and see where it went from there. It sounded like she was giving him a chance to date her again. I was already pretty heartbroken about that. I really trusted her, and I wanted to be with her long term. Over the past few days, she had lied to me so much and I had every reason to believe she either cheated on me or planned to cheat on me. I found several unsaved numbers in her phone where she and whoever was on the other end were making plans to get drinks or go to coffee with each other. There wasn't anything explicit in those messages, but it seemed like she was going on dates with the people. I saw that she had Hinge downloaded. She had a profile with recent pictures and recent messages with men. She had given some of them her phone number. The last thing I looked at was her notes app. I found the list in the notes where there were dozens of men listed with a date and a brief description of a sexual encounter. At the very bottom of the list was Greg. She described how they hooked up in the bathroom at the club. I found my name on the list. Around the same time she and I started dating, there were several other men, and all throughout a relationship there had been other men listed as well. I felt stupid. If she had been sleeping around with so many different people, how had I not noticed anything up until that point? Was I really that naive? I screenshots a lot of the information that I found and I sent them to myself, and then I deleted the screenshots. While my girlfriend was still asleep, I left her apartment. I went home to mine and I broke down about everything. I felt massively betrayed and I didn't know what to do. I told my girlfriend everything about my past, and she assured me that she was different, and I believed her. I slept on everything, and when I woke up in the morning I saw that my girlfriend had texted me a few times asking me about where I went. I didn't respond to them right away. I needed to think about what I wanted to do. I was going to be breaking up with her for sure. I just couldn't shake the feeling that I wanted to get some kind of revenge on her for what she did. She went out into a public place, surrounded by several of her friends, and cheated on me with another guy. She humiliated me in front of all of those people. I wanted to do something similar to her. I responded later in the day and told her that I had a minor family emergency come up and I had to leave. I told her that everything was fine and I was okay, but I offered to take her to that dinner again that night. She'd agreed to go and I told her to get dressed up because I was taking her to a nice place. She seemed excited. I was able to score some last-minute reservations at a place in the city that she had always wanted to go to. I picked her up before dinner and I drove her there. We checked in and got brought to our tables where we ordered some food. I told her to order the most expensive thing on the menu, and I ordered a very nice bottle of wine for the table. As we both ordered, I could see the bill was going to be upwards of $500. It was more than either of us could afford at the time for sure. At the end of the meal, I pulled up my phone and read the list of names that I found on hers. She was surprised to say the least. Her face turned bright red, and she looked like she was about to vomit. She kept asking me to stop, but I didn't. Our conversation was very animated, and a lot of people around us turned to look over at us while we talked. I made it as clear as day that she had been sleeping with all of those men and lying to me about it. When I was done, I walked off and told her that we were breaking up. She tried to get me to come back and talk to her, but I didn't want to. On my way out, I told the person at the front of the house that the bill would be paid for by her. It was the least she could do after cheating on me with so many different guys. I drove home and immediately looked through Fred's social media to find the contact information of his partner. I sent her a message through Instagram showing her the screenshots of the message exchanges between him and my girlfriend. I never got a response from her, but I checked back from time to time, and after a few days, I saw that all of their pictures together were deleted from her Instagram. I could only assume that they'd broken up. I have received several Venmo requests from my ex-girlfriend for the entire cost of the dinner that I made her pay for. I ended up blocking her on everything, so there isn't any chance that she's going to get that money from me.